As of right now, we have a lot of hydrants. They're either out of service. One of them was right in front of our elementary school.
Not good.
No. These employees, I mean, you see them out and about, but you don't see everything that they're doing every day.
Right.
And there's so much going on that they have to get done to make sure that the city's run, the city can run. That's what motivates me I want to make sure that our community stays as special as it has been for me. It's given me so much, and I just want to make sure, I want to pay it forward. Yeah. And I want it to be somewhere that my kids would be like, hey, you know what? I can raise a family here. I can be successful here and have a career here.
Hey, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of Higher Caliber Podcast. We got me and Tim in the studio with our buddy Josh. Thanks for coming, man.
Hey, I appreciate it. Thank you guys for having me.
Yep, glad we finally got you in here. You want to go ahead and give yourself a brief intro so I don't screw it up?
Sure. No, my name's Josh Bradley. I am the 4th Ward City Councilman for the City of Ontario. I've been in that position since 2020. I'm currently running in the primary for the Republican spot for Mayor of Ontario.
So what made you want to get into the running?
I don't know if you guys know the former mayor, Randy Hutchinson. He was mayor for, I want to say, around 12 or 13 years. He retired as mayor to take a position over at the Area Agency on Aging for Richland County. So that kind of opened up a spot. They appointed a mayor. And
so does the party do that?
Yes. So if there's a vacancy in a seat, depending on if it's a Republican Party, Democrat Party, the central committee of those parties select the mayor.
And that's of the county, of Richland County?
That's specifically the central committee for Ontario.
Okay.
So how it works is the central committee will post or put advertisements out for the position. And you can apply through a letter of intent. And then what happens is you get called in for interviews. Mm-hmm. So then at that point, the committee will decide on who will fill the vacant seat. And like I said, it's based off of the party that held the seat. So You'll see, like if you see somebody that has ran for a position and Democrat, Republican, what happens is, they're like, I know I'm not going to do 4 years. But what they'll do is to retain the seat as the party,
right?
They'll go ahead and go through with it, and then after they are appointed,
they'll just leapfrog it, basically.
Yeah, then it can be appointed.
Gotcha.
I mean that happens sometimes. So
sure,
yeah.
Is there any? And I'm dumb when it comes to politics, but is there any term limits on mayors or anything like that? They can just keep running and get elected, and for as long as they want.
Yeah, no term limits there. So
I got you. Had you Have you ran for any other type of office before you were a councilman?
Well, I'll tell you, I put in for a position for council for an at-large position. It was about 3 months prior to when I was appointed. What happened there was an opinion from the city law director that thought that because I serve on the fire department within the community, that I couldn't serve on council as well. So basically what happened there was, I don't know how much you guys know about Type 2 annexation. So
Nothing.
Okay.
Absolutely nothing.
So with our community, the city of Ontario sits right inside Springfield Township. Okay. So a Springfield Township resident can vote for township trustees. Right. But they can't vote for city officials. Now, on the other side of it, a city resident can vote for city officials and for township trustees.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So all the funding through the fire department comes from property tax and a small amount of permissive tax. Okay. So all of that funding comes to the fire department in that form. So the city of Ontario operates off of income tax and some sales tax, of course. But
sure.
So basically, those two entities, they never meet as far as, I don't get paid from the city of Ontario as a firefighter. Mm-hmm. I get paid from the city of Ontario as a councilman. so there's no crossing those lines.
Right.
So that was something that kind of got in the way. I had to argue that. I had to argue that opinion, and it worked in my favor. So
Was there not precedents already set up, like other opinions? And
I think there were other opinions, and that's actually what I used to help me get past that point. So, and then but the issue was at that point they had already selected the person
I got you.
for the
Kind of ran out of time.
Yeah, but it paved the way. I was able to prove that I was able to put in for those positions or run for that position.
And there's nothing different if you do win this race for mayor. There's nothing different about that, correct?
Absolutely not. No.
Okay. Well, it's good that you've already kind of crossed those hurdles, I guess.
Yes.
You know, we have one acquaintance that we know that he was a councilman for a village and kind of got railroaded into this, and he had to resign.
Yeah.
Unfortunately,
Yeah, it was unfortunate,
but it's great that you already have all this covered. So even, you know, people that may be against you can't be like, well, he can't actually do that because, you know, of this. Well, now you already have it done.
Yeah.
So,
and the difference in that situation and mine is basically what they had set in place, right? In the village ordinances.
sure.
So, yeah, that was unfortunate. I feel like Lexington lost a really, really good guy. So
Yeah.
that's too bad.
yeah.
What would you say the biggest, out of curiosity, what would you say the biggest complaint is from the city of Ontario, from the people that want to see change?
Okay. So a lot of the issues I hear about when my constituents are calling me or texting me is, well, there's a few. One, issues with rentals in neighborhoods. We're having some issues in some of our neighborhoods where the property owner themselves are not taking care of the property itself in hand, making the neighborhood look worse, giving it an eyesore, and then ultimately driving down your property value. Actually, at the last council meeting, and I'd like to get into our comprehensive plan here in a little bit, but a part of our comprehensive plan was having our zoning updated. So we're in the process of that now. Council voted unanimously to move forward with updating the entire zoning book because honestly, it needs done. It needs done pretty bad. So, there's been times through the history of Ontario where different councils have made passed ordinances changing sections of the zoning code. But if you get to looking into any zoning code, you change one piece, you have four other pieces in different areas that now need updated, and that just wasn't happening. So that's a project that I'm really passionate about. And the reason I bring that up is when we talk about that complaint that we're having with our constituents, there's programs out there, or there's zoning code out there.
I don't mean to cut you off here, but I know the biggest problem is usually everybody has their fists up in the air. That's roads. So what would you say the infrastructure's situation's like?
It's something that we really need to address, as that's one of the other things that I hear a lot about is our roads. So so in 2023, we implemented a road analysis, or we hired somebody to do a road analysis. And basically the way it worked before was the mayor or the president of council would say, hey, the council members, can you drive around and see what roads?
Just have everybody out in the trucks looking around.
Yeah, but hey, look in your wards, and if there's any roads
I guess
out
that
there,
probably is more effective than doing absolutely nothing.
Absolutely. So the thing with that is like wards. I'm fourth ward councilman. There's 4 wards, 4 ward councilmen, and then there's 3 at large. So you're driving around your ward trying to represent your your constituents and looking at roads that need done. But then you get phone calls from people saying, "Hey, I saw in the paper that you guys you're working on the next road projects for the following year. I'd like to see my road be the one that, one of them that gets paved." And I understand that.
Mhm.
But so, one of the problems was in the way that we decided on which roads we were going to include in the following year's road projects, basically. So we would be asked by the mayor or the service safety director. They would say, "Hey, can you go out there and drive around your wards
Mhm.
and let us know what roads you thought need attention?" There again, I don't know if that's the most effective way of prioritizing.
It's also probably nice that the people that voted for you see you driving around and actually paying attention.
Yeah, no, and honestly, I mean that's my job as the fourth ward councilman is to take
Actually
care of our
talk to-
ward,
yeah.
and talk to the constituents, see what they need,
Yeah.
and go from there. But with this road analysis, we actually had this company come in
What year was that again?
that was in 2023.
Okay.
And so we had them come in and they graded every road in Ontario and rated it 100 to 0, right?
Mm-hmm.
From worst to first. And so now what we do is we go to the bottom of that list because we had neighborhoods like our Rosewood and Willowwood areas.
Mm-hmm.
Those neighborhoods have been neglected for a long time. Debbie Lane, all of those and that Debbie Lane was in my area on the 4th ward.
The roads you can barely see from the nice shopping areas.
Yeah. Well, I mean, like the Willowwood, Rosewood, that's right.
All the woods.
The Rosewood's right beside Chipotle there.
Yeah.
That neighborhood
That's-
back in there.
Yep.
But there's still roads back there that need taken care of. Tanglewood is one that we still need to hit. But, so you're looking at that, but those neighborhoods weren't being represented the way they should, I don't think. As far as, and I'm not saying that as far as council, it's just, okay, we're getting phone calls. Okay, these are the roads that we need to work on. Well, now, no, there's no room for that. It's what's
It's
needed
actually
next.
on a scale. Yeah.
Absolutely. And that company recommends that we redo that study every 2 to 3 years. And that study cost the city around $4,000. And I think it was worth every penny.
Yeah.
That's-
I was expecting something
I
astronomical.
was like, oh, they dropped
Oh,
like
yeah.
they dropped $100,000 on this.
Yeah.
Yeah, no.
But $4,000, I mean,
That's not bad.
$4,000 is
Dude, it cost me $20 to get my whole family Taco Bell. $4,000 to look at all the roads. That's
yeah, I think that's fair.
Yeah.
Definitely fair. And I think that's a good idea to kind of maybe do your due diligence, but also kind of take it off of you. Like, hey, here's an independent company. This is what they recommend.
Yeah, that way
And
when
I'm
you
sure
have people on Facebook are like, my road's way worse. But like, well, I have a company that says,
I'm sure they have some type of metric, like Jim Bob's not like, that's a 10,
Yeah.
whatever. They have something scientific or something that they use to do that process. So I think that's probably fair for everybody.
Yeah. And honestly, you're absolutely right. And we do get phone calls from people saying, why not my road this year? And I understand that because there's roads that really need attention. But the issue is the city of Ontario does not run on any road levies whatsoever.
Mm-hmm.
It's all based off of our budget. So we spend anywhere between $250,000 to $2 million a year on road resurfacing or repair. So that's a chunk of our budget, and we have to figure that out. An issue that I have when we talk about this is permissive tax. So, permissive tax, the Richland County, the sales tax is 7%.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So the way this goes, all of your sales tax, like Ontario, Mansfield, Madison, Lexington, everybody, all that money goes to the state.
Mhm.
The state keeps a pretty large percentage of it. Then they allocate what's left to your county, which is, I think, around, don't quote me, I think it's 1.25%.
Okay.
So then your county commissioners go through and they look at that. And what they do is they decide on if they allocate money to the community, the different communities, and how much. Mm-hmm. So right now, Ontario gets around $8,000 a month in sales tax. And you think about that, that
Is that it?
that is it.
That doesn't seem like
It doesn't.
I know that a lot of the other like townships get around the same amount of money.
that's about 90% less than I thought it would be.
Yeah. We got around a little over 100,000 in 2024 when it came to sales tax. Now, you talk about infrastructure. Lexington Spring Mill Road.
I would like to see some kind of even ballpark numbers of the sales tax transactions in Ontario.
Mm-hmm.
Like that's the mecca of shopping in Richland County, right?
Oh yeah.
Versus the rest of the county, and then how much you guys are getting. I mean, that just seems odd to me.
Doesn't it floor you? I mean, you think about that, and I've called and talked to the commissioners about it, and basically, that is the way it is, and they decide on that every year. So
Really?
On the percent?
Oh yeah, on the amount that you can get. So they could say, yeah, we're going to give you, X amount of dollars, but then next year they could say, you know what, we're not going to give you anything.
Is they being the state?
No, your county commissioners.
County commissioners.
Yeah.
Okay.
No kidding.
Mm-hmm. Right. I'm pretty sure the state keeps like 5.75, and then the county gets 1.25. Like I said, it's a shocking number when you look at it.
That's very shocking.
I just thought y'all were rich.
Yeah. Right.
Well, I mean, that's what a normal person thinks. I mean,
yeah.
I always thought that. I'm like, oh, yeah, they must be doing good because, everybody's
stores are going in, and stores mean more money, and
yeah. And they base the way they base what they hand out, what the county commissioners decide they're going to hand out to each municipality is based off of road mileage per municipality, but it's not the current. It's like 1983 or 81 is what they base it off of. So if you've had a large amount of expansion in your community, that they're still going off of that 1980s road study.
No kidding.
Yeah.
What about the sewers?
So
what's the uproar about the sewers?
I'm glad you brought that up. So I guess my uproar with the sewer issue is, we had an opportunity a few years ago to go ahead and build our own treatment plant. My biggest issue with that treatment plant was its location. It was going to be over there on Nussbaum Parkway, butted up to a neighborhood, right?
Mm-hmm.
The Willow Dells, Friday Lanes, all of that down in there. That was my issue. You do something like that, you can cause property values to just plummet,
yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And that's not in the best interest of that neighborhood.
Sure.
So that was my biggest issue. I felt like we had some other areas that we could have went with, but it did cost more. But at the end of the day, it wouldn't have affected our residents as much.
And that should be who you're working for.
Absolutely. So we ended up going into contract with the city of Mansfield again. They're the ones who we contract with. So we pay them a base of like $3 million a year. Okay. To take our brown water. Okay. So they'll go ahead and they'll take that. But the other part of it is that our residents, when it comes to their sewer rates are based off of what the city of Mansfield residents' sewer rates are. But the catch on that is that the city residents pay that plus 30%. Yeah. And
what's the 30% for?
the 30% for
Transportation of
updates and when it comes to Mansfield's sewer treatment plant, basically.
Mm-hmm.
So, there was a time where that benefited the community, having that partnership. But, that's coming up in 2031. Okay. And in April of 2030, we have to give notice whether we're going to stay with that agreement
Mm-hmm.
or we're going to do something different. If we don't if we don't give them an answer by then the contract automatically renews for another 10 years.
Wow.
Yeah.
So
That's coming up pretty quick.
yeah, so that's something we got to look at. Yeah, it costs money. We know it costs money. When we had it looked at before, when we had the plans and everything, and we were going to, we were going to have to go through with it. You're looking at around, $45 million, but there's grants, right?
Sure.
And we can plan ahead.
Sure.
We have some time, but we can't twiddle our thumbs on it either. So that's a big issue. Every dollar counts.
Talk about property values going down.
Yeah. But it's something we definitely need to address, and we need a plan for.
For sure.
Yeah.
For sure. I don't know of any other, I'm not exactly sure where all the water treatment plants are in the communities or in the county, but I don't see many that are right in neighborhoods that I can think of.
Yeah, they're usually in around industrial zones.
For sure.
Somewhere away from a large amount of residents. So
yeah, that's and it stinks. I mean, the place where I work, the municipality, it smells like onions all the time. Yeah. They call it the muffin house.
The muffin house.
Yeah. Actually, they call it something else, but I won't.
Oh.
Yeah, we'll keep that.
Yeah. But, and not even to get off of that, but to go back to that permissive tax, when you think about that, Lexington Spring Mill Road is our largest, obviously our largest road, and the most money goes to that road for maintenance.
For sure.
That's my issue with how the permissive tax is divvied out.
Right.
That's a main shot to a lot of sales tax. And I feel like, we decided as a community that we didn't want to have road levies. So we got to figure something else out.
Right.
We want to make it to where the people of Ontario are not taxed to death.
Sure.
Right.
So
there's got to be a fine line between, a good community to live in while not being taxed to death, because it does take money to have nice things.
Absolutely.
I almost wore my taxation as theft shirt today, but I changed. Speaking of water, I saw on your website you talked about the fire hydrants. Some of them going back to 1950s. And I'm sure as a firefighter yourself, that probably seems a little absurd. But I don't know. Maybe I should check more fire hydrants. Maybe there's some from the 40s. I don't know. But
I know in our area anyway, like these have dug, nobody knows anything until you have a water main break, right? So then they start digging up, and then they find like the old hollowed out wooden logs, like, holy crap, that's still in there.
Yeah.
Like, you don't know what's down there until you dig it up, I guess, but not steal your thunder.
Oh, no.
And
I know
obviously,
exactly what we're talking.
Tim alluded to the fact that's true, though. Most people don't really care about it until their house is on fire.
Yeah.
So,
yeah. And it's, it's one of those things. We have quite an amount of hydrants in our community. I think it's around 400. I have it on my website. I'm sorry, I can't think of it. I don't want to tell a lie. So, but yeah, so when Ontario was expanding, right, it became a village in 58. So it was growing rapidly. The experts I've spoken with and those experts are people who actually work those jobs, water, work in the water treatment plants, different municipalities. I've talked to numerous amounts of people over this, because this is an issue that we have that we're working on. Not as quickly as I think we should, but we're still working on it. But so when you look at the hydrants, a lot of those are from the 50s and 60s. We have a lot of issues with them seizing closed, or you can't open them, or drainage not draining well, and excuse me. And I was informed that from our service safety director that one hydrant replacement is around $7,000
for one of them.
For one hydrant.
I think they just actually went up in price.
Yeah, they might have.
Yeah.
But this is, he just, at the last meeting when we were discussing it. But that's what so anyway.
So it's a hard sell to the public to be like, we just need to replace all of these right now. That's not really feasible, right?
It's not, but at the same time, like the fire department, they go through every year and test each hydrant. Okay. Making sure it's working, make sure it's draining well.
Mhm.
You can open it easily. So the last few years, the gentleman on the fire department who's been designated in this job, he's come back and he said, "Hey, here's a list of the hydrants that I can't." And he's, this guy's a farmer. He's a big guy. I wouldn't want to mess with him, and he's having a hard time getting these hydrants open.
Yeah, that's a problem.
Yeah. So that issue, he brings it to the attention of our fire chief, and then he bumps that up the chain. So the issue is when your budget only allows for $20,000 a year in hydrant maintenance, that's the problem, right? So I'm on the finance committee as well, and we just had a meeting last week. I was talking about this very same issue, and I was talking about the importance of it. So we haven't March 19th is when we vote for our final budget for the city of Ontario. We raised it some, but I really think we need to raise it some more. But the issue when it comes to that, $7,000 a hydrant. They're again talking to experts in that field. They're like, hey, you know what you can do? You can just replace those valves, right?
Yeah, rebuild them.
Yeah. And just replace those valves. And you could do that between $250 and $500.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So, that's something that you can limp those hydrants along a lot,
for sure,
while you catch up. But as of right now, we have a lot of hydrants. They're either out of service. One of them was right in front of our elementary school.
Not good.
No.
Is it fixed now?
I was told it's fixed.
Okay.
So
I want to put you on the spot.
Yeah. No. Yeah, I've been made aware by our service safety director that it's fixed.
Okay.
But there again, I mean, these are issues. These are big issues.
Well, that's one of the reasons that you live in a city, right?
Yeah.
City services, right?
Yeah.
Fire hydrants are a big thing. I mean, being a fireman all my life, fire hydrants are a big thing.
Right.
And if your house catches on fire and you realize that hydrant has been out of service for 10 years and they knew about it, you're like, what is going, I wouldn't be happy.
Yeah. And something about that is that same gentleman that's doing all that testing, he actually started putting black garbage bags
on the hydrants,
taping it on.
That's good.
They're out of
That's
service.
nice. That's nice for the people
Yeah.
that need to use them.
I'll say this, was told that they were removed. And when I asked why, I said, that's not the image that Ontario wants to portray. That's an issue for me.
Right.
How about making sure that all of your hydrants are working so that when your residents need you to put a fire out,
right?
You're not going, well, we didn't know it was out of service.
Right. Imagine taking all that time hooking up to the hydrant to go put a fire out. And they're like, oh, that's one of those images we didn't want to portray hydrants.
Yeah.
So we took the trash bag off.
Yeah, absolutely.
Not a good look.
Not at all.
All right. What's one of the things that you think people don't quite understand that frustrates them that you wish they would understand, or that you could tell them a little better?
Okay.
Explain it to them a little better.
Yeah, no, that's a good question. As I've been out door knocking, I've had a lot of residents I've had a lot of residents bring up the fact that they weren't, happy that a certain restaurant chain closed
Mm-hmm.
and that something else was going to go into that said location. We have no control over that. That's a private owner.
Sure.
If they go up to the person that's renting the building saying, hey, your lease is up, I'm selling the property, you guys have to go. We have no control over that.
Right.
Now the uses, what's it going to be? If it's going to be another restaurant, okay. We have no say. But now if it was something where you change the use of the property, then it goes to planning commission and then it comes to council, and that's something that
So
we
you
can
do
talk
have a say
about.
in that part, but
Absolutely. We have one, Cheddar's.
Mhm.
Cheddar's closed.
I miss that place.
Yeah,
we were just talking about that like
a lot
last
of
week.
people miss Cheddar's, but people were upset about it, and I understand that. And they were upset that the fact that there was a developer that was wanting to put a gas station in there.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I mean, at that point, that's something as a planning commission. You have to decide, is that something that we will allow in that location? And there's restrictions,
Sure.
right? Depending on where your water supply is coming from, where you're receiving your water. So there's certain areas that gas stations can't even go into, but we weren't even at that
Stage.
Yeah, at that stage. Yeah. So, that location's closed. There's nobody there now. And I can honestly say I have heard nothing about that location. But, that's the kind of things that, I feel like maybe some people think, well, maybe, council, they can control this. That's stuff we can't control. That's
Right.
That's definitely government overreach.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So don't get mad at you, get mad at the free market.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
That's good.
You took my chicken
You
tenders.
took what were you talking about? Were you talking about chicken tenders the other day?
Oh man, that's the only thing I ever got.
So
at
yeah,
Cheddar's.
I didn't even think about that. Like, you guys just kind of decide the use, if it's a different use.
Mhm.
But if Denny's leaves and what is it that came in?
Raising Cane's.
Raising Cane's
Mhm.
comes in, then
Yeah.
you didn't just bless off on that.
Yeah,
like,
you didn't call up Raising Cane's from the big leagues and say, "Hey,
You're
get in here now.
Yeah,
Our
right.
residents want. I mean,
Right.
right now, guys. We're not kidding.
I mean, I guess you
Get in
could,
here.
but
Now, don't get me wrong. The students, the kids of Ontario and adults like cheered when they heard about Raising Cane's. Like I was like, everybody was so excited about Raising Cane's. I'll just be honest with you. We have no control over who's coming in there.
Right.
But we're happy that Raising Cane's is coming in.
for sure,
Yeah.
for sure.
I guess I'll put my freaking pitchfork and torch down then.
Yeah. Or what you could do, you could say, hey, council's responsible for all the good places
Yeah.
that come in.
Yeah.
Right. And then give them that answer if it's something they don't like.
If it's one thing I know, people get upset about chicken. That's what I've learned.
I've never had Raising Cane's.
Didn't you work private EMS?
I did, sir. Yeah. Never made it. No.
Never made it there. Wow.
Every person that worked private EMS I know still has about 30 pounds on them of Raising Cane's. I can see it. It's,
Man. No.
how'd
not
you
mine.
dodge that?
Yeah. I focused on Taco Bell.
Yeah.
Gotcha there. So tell me about the park project that you had on your website. Is it Stonewell?
Stowell Park.
Stowell.
Yeah. So 2021, because I came in and in the middle of that term, so I didn't chair any committees until 2021 when they divvied out the committees. But I was lucky enough to get parks.
Mm-hmm.
Mayor Randy Hutchinson had some plans, some dreams that things that he wanted to get done in the parks, and me and him had a meeting over that. We had a meeting with our chair of finance and our finance committee. We all got together. It was a project that we updated the baseball fields with some turf, lights. I'll be honest with you. I really pushed the lights because at first the plan came in as turf. We'll put turf in. It's going to help our students and our kids and the community as a whole to start practicing earlier or playing later.
Mm-hmm.
And as this was going on, we're having these debates on which projects to go with. And the lights were around $400,000. And I could understand where, people were a little reserved because of the cost.
That's a big expense.
But I guess, and I put it this way during the meeting. I said, what's the point of being able to, start earlier and end later if you can't see the ball?
Right.
For sure.
It gets darker faster. You know what I mean? So that was something that I really pushed for. And we financed all of these projects, but it was, like I said, it was the turf, it was the lights, it was the walking path, and it was the splash pad, projects like that. And then over at Stowell, like the pickleball courts and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
But this was all, like I said, a lot of these projects were focused in Marshall Park. That's where that was at. But after our, and there again, I'm bringing up our comprehensive plan, but after reviewing surveys, because we had public surveys. We wanted to know what everybody was want.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah,
Very democratic,
right? And but one of those things that somebody brought up, because I was reading the surveys, people's opinions, like what do you want to see in Ontario? And one of the comments was, I would love to see a park on the east side of Ontario. And I'll be honest with you, first I was like, that kind of shocks me a little bit because we have Sunset Park, we have Doris Carr Park, right? We have Stowell Park.
You got Marshall Park too?
Marshall Park's on the west side.
Okay.
Yeah, Marshall Park's
I thought you were naming all of them. You're talking about already have all those parks on the east side.
Yeah, those are the parks on the east side. And it made me think, we're definitely not doing a service to those parks if people don't even know they're there. Right?
Yeah.
Sunset Park is at the end of a Sunset Road, Drive. And Doris Carr Park is up on the northeast corner of the city. Now, the people who live in those neighborhoods know about them.
They're gonna be like, don't tell these people that they're
right. I've ruined it for everybody.
Gems.
Yeah, sorry, but it's one of those things that we need to do more with our other parks.
Yeah,
if it's upgrades to equipment, anything to that point, making sure that everybody in Ontario has got a place that they could take their kids and play.
Yeah. I mean, I go out of town just to go there to play, or for my kids. I play too a little bit, but to take my kids to go play.
Have you ever been to Sunset Park?
I don't think so.
See,
I think I've only been to Marshall Park.
Because
that's where it's happening.
Yeah, I mean that's it's a gem. It really is. We've done a lot out there. Our parks foreman, a guy is just awesome. He's always got the place looking good. I can't say enough about the parks department. So
it's nice out there.
Yeah.
So Josh, I think it's kind of interesting that you're in fire and EMS, and that's what you do for a living. I feel like maybe you have a different perspective than a lot of your other colleagues or council people. Can you kind of maybe give us whatever, or maybe insides, or how that maybe helps you as a councilman?
He said insides, but I think he meant insights.
Insights.
Yeah, absolutely. I can do that.
Let me see the insights.
Yeah. When you look at our city employees, a lot of our council members haven't seen them, I guess, in action, right?
Mm-hmm.
When it comes to whether it be sewer, or roads, water, or our police department. When you look at those services that we have, when we have something that happens, and we have to call one of those groups out, I mean, they are Johnny on the spot to help us, and I don't think a lot of people understand because they're not seen, right? These employees, I mean, you see them out and about, but you don't see everything that they're doing every day.
Right.
And there's so much going on that they have to get done to make sure that the city's run, the city can run.
Right.
The police department alone, I can't say enough about that police department. You guys know, you get toned out for something where you might need the police there, right? They're there.
They're already there.
They're already there. But the thing is, even with those types of calls, which, believe me, we are extremely grateful that they're there.
Mm-hmm.
But these guys, like, I'll be honest with you, without saying names, I don't want to, do that to them. But we've had officers that have put tourniquets on, stopped the bleed, that training, gone through all those trainings. I know for a fact, I'm telling you right now, that have saved lives from accidents because they applied a tourniquet, or we get called to an overdose somewhere. 9 times out of 10, they're there already.
Yeah.
They're out patrolling. They're everywhere.
Yeah, they're already in their vehicle.
Yeah, they're
so they've got to jump on us for sure. Typically, depending on where it's at, and they're already administering Narcan. You know what I mean? Such an asset for the fire department in itself is the police department for sure.
So,
and your guys' fire department and police department work really well together.
Yeah, and
Just from the outside looking in,
absolutely.
it's pretty apparent.
Involved in a lot of trainings together. They invite us to their trainings. We try to work very closely with them. And again, really good group all the way around, from the people in the office, administrative staff, the road, sewer. I can't say enough about what everybody does.
Right.
Does the police department need more people, you think?
Yeah. So when you look at it, the police department has 23 total
I
officers.
think I saw that on your website, 23.
Yeah. And they're running close to, I think it's 48 calls a day. Like last year, I believe the numbers, I have it on my website, it's around 17,000 calls.
And for what, 10,000 people work in Ontario?
Yeah.
And how many people live in Ontario?
Yeah. Like 339.
339.
Yeah. That was a study they did.
So you got 10,000 people roughly during the day that
Mhm.
23, or how many officers are on a day?
Like, well, I mean, there's shifts, there's 3 shifts, right?
Okay.
So, depending on, and that
depending
depends
on
on
what time
everything.
it is.
Yeah. But those guys are really running.
Mhm.
So,
Oh, for sure.
yeah, I mean, when you think about that, almost 50 calls a day
Mhm.
through that. But like I said, I can't say enough. I know I'm sure you guys have seen some of the stuff over the past year that's happened, or,
Mhm.
we have some officers that have been put in some really tough situations and performed way above,
Mhm.
so, I couldn't be more proud of, like I said, not just the police, but, those are the guys that I work the most, closest with, but administrative staff, all of them. But
I think it's good that you at least have knowledge of how those things function on a greater level, because I've been in like contract negotiations with, officials or administration, and, they're like, why do you need vacation? You work 2 days a week.
Yeah.
No, you don't understand. Like for 24 hours while you're sleeping at home, we're up and, saving lives and doing stuff. So,
yeah.
at least I think those people can appreciate that you already have a better understanding of what these people are going through, the mental aspects, the physical aspects, and can maybe relate to them,
Yeah.
On that level,
Yeah, and on the same token, now you can see it from an administrative standpoint.
Sure.
We're like, oh, they don't have a bunch of money to just throw at the fire department, or,
right.
So now you can see. So I don't think anybody would say this, but if anybody was thinking like, oh, he's going to get in there and just give the fire department all of our money, I don't see that happening.
And there again, that's a totally different
entity,
different chain
right.
of, the way the money goes. But,
Sure.
Mhm.
but as far as, no, I understand completely what you guys are saying. And I have seen that, it's important. It's really important to have, well-trained employees, right? Retention.
Mhm.
I think that's huge.
Retention
right now.
is, if you don't have the culture and you don't have the respect, to say, okay, I want to make sure that, you guys are working, your tails off for us.
Mhm.
The least we can do is make sure you have a competitive wage
Right.
and benefits. Right. And you're right. Not just the fire department, like the water department. We get a fire, we open a hydrant and a line breaks because of
Right.
our water lines from the 50s and 60s. Quality is not the best, right?
Mhm.
That happens. Guess who's coming out? Your water department.
Right.
Those guys are coming out. And I know I've seen other members from different,
Departments.
yeah. I've seen other departments that have come out and helped with those situations as well.
Yeah.
Like we have a dedicated group of people, but we got to make sure retention is at the very forefront of our minds, right?
For sure.
Because it's you guys know in any occupation right now,
You can go anywhere you want.
absolutely,
Yep.
and retention is the hardest thing in the world right now. And there's always somebody who's going to pay a little bit more. And I've talked to some people about this. When you look at down around Columbus, the townships, stuff like that,
Yeah.
we can't compete, right?
No.
We can't compete with that, but we can make it to where it's not worth the trip.
Mhm.
Yeah,
Right.
for sure.
That's a
They're-
good.
they're- it's
that's a
about
good
the little
milestone.
things.
Yeah. And that's a focus of mine.
Because I mean, you ultimately lose, the townships and the cities lose when you have somebody who leaves. All that experience goes away. You have to spend money to train a new person, so you have half the people out there with no experience.
Mm-hmm.
I think a lot of people just don't value all the experience that's leaving.
absolutely.
You know?
We've lost. I mean, I'll just be honest with you. We have lost a good amount of well-trained employees, that great people, right? They've
Mhm.
gone somewhere else, whether it be whether it be administration, whether it be sewer, whether it be water, police department, roads, all of those. We've lost some really good people with knowledge that you cannot just
Right.
Yeah,
You know,
can't gain it back.
With a whole
No,
career's worth of knowledge out the door.
It's one of those things that it's a problem, right? So we have to figure out what we have to do to change that culture and try to retain some of these really great employees that we have.
I think you hit it right on the head with culture. I mean,
Yeah, because even if you can't pay them what they want to, at least make it a nice place for them
Yeah.
to go to work every day.
Absolutely. Yeah.
That's the ticket right there.
Yeah.
if you love your job, you'll never work a day in your life,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Yeah.
I feel like I've worked a couple days.
But I was I had a conversation with a gentleman. He was a chief on another department, and he asked me, because I was on, I'm on council this a few months ago, and he asked me. He said, what do you think is one of the biggest problems that's facing the fire service today? And I told him, I said, politicians. When you think about it, and nothing against anybody. Like, I love the people on council with me. I have a great group of people on council, but just like I don't know about their job, they don't know about mine.
Right.
So when you look at that, you're trying to educate, the new person that's coming in. Hey, this is why, like you said, or one of you guys said earlier about, well, this is why we need this, and this is why we have this, and this is why we do it this way. Every 4 years, you could be starting all over with somebody,
Yeah.
right? And you can have somebody that's on your council or on your township that really understands the importance of retention and all those things, retention and that culture. But as soon as they go and somebody else new comes in, not saying it's their fault, they just don't know what they don't know.
Right.
So
It's a good point.
yeah.
All right. So before we get off the police subject, I saw on your website that I saw something called a flock system.
Oh yeah.
And I didn't Google it because I figured I would just ask you what that is.
Yeah, no, I appreciate you bringing that up. Actually, that's one of the things I'm really proud of when it comes to my time on the safety committee. So it was during COVID, right? And we had allocated in the budget, we rotate our vehicles, right? So the police department was supposed to get a few cruisers.
Mm-hmm.
Well, due to demand and the lack of supply, we weren't going to be able to get those cruisers. So the police chief came to the safety committee and said, "Hey, can you guys take a look at this system? Mansfield City is using it, and other municipalities, and it's a huge asset to their police department, right?" So we actually, Mansfield Police Department let us log on and actually look at this system. So what's crazy about this is, this is the stuff that we can get. Can you imagine the stuff we can't? You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
Basically, there's cameras all around your city, right? In Ontario specifically, every entrance into the city of Ontario, you have one of these. If you're driving down and you see one of these cameras, and above it is a solar panel, it's black.
I thought that was a traffic cam.
No, that's a flock system. So
Okay.
what that does is it scans your vehicle and it scans your license plate, right? What it does is if somebody's driving through and that vehicle is registered to them and they have a warrant out for their arrest for any, whatever reason, the police department will be alerted as soon as they cross into Ontario.
No kidding.
Nice.
Same thing with sex offenders.
Really?
A sex offender crosses into the community, the city's alerted at least, right?
So are the individual officers on patrol alerted on their like computer system, or is it?
It goes through dispatch.
Okay.
So, but we have them at all the entrances of our parks. So God forbid, somebody is abducted from anywhere in Ontario.
Yeah.
In those moments, I'm sure you have it to where someone's going, oh, I didn't think to look at the license plate, but I know that the front corner panel was blue and the rest of the vehicle was white. You can actually type that in to the flock system, and it will show you each vehicle that has it. It could be a bumper sticker. It could be a dent in the bumper, anything. Honestly,
that's awesome and terrifying at the same time.
I know. It has been very successful. And it's been very successful in other municipalities. And it has been a huge asset for the police department in Ontario. So,
wow.
Yeah.
That's cool.
And how long have you guys been running with this system?
I want to say this is coming up on our second year, but like I said, don't hold me to it. I can remember and like I said, it all stemmed from not being able to purchase the police cruisers. And like I said, police chief, being a forward thinker, was like, hey, could we allocate this, this much of this fund, that you had planned for the vehicles? Can we make that to where we go with this flock system? And after we tried it and you were able to give it a test run,
see it work.
Yeah, we were 100% on board.
That's cool, man.
Yeah.
Cool.
I'm not going to feel the same driving into, even though I didn't do anything wrong, I'm still going to feel like
yeah. No, honestly, and you can say a car with, you name it, like a shattered windshield or whatever,
right.
And this thing will pop up those vehicles and their license plates.
That's cool.
So
honestly, being a resident of a community that has that would make me feel safer, like especially like with my kids and especially like you said at parks and stuff like that. That's definitely,
and it's a huge concern, right? And I think everybody, whether no matter what walk of life, you want to make sure that your kids are protected.
For sure.
Yeah, it doesn't matter when it comes to your party affiliation. It doesn't matter anything like that. You want to make sure that you're safe, and your family's safe. And that's something I think that does. It definitely helps. Yeah.
Yeah. All right, man. So tell me about your comprehensive plan.
Okay. No, I appreciate bringing this up too. So, like I was saying, in 21, I was the chair of the Parks Committee. We did all of those improvements at the park, got everything done there. And then I was asked, hey, would you be interested in chairing economic development? And I said, absolutely. I'd love the challenge. So as I started, it was in January of 23 as the economic development chair. I asked myself, what is the plan? Then I asked, administration, like what is the plan here in Ontario? Like, what's the goal? What are we aiming for in development, in our community? And like I said, to be fair, it was one of those things where, somebody comes in, says, hey, I want to develop a neighborhood. I want to develop a commercial property. It goes to our planning commission, then it comes to council. Right.
Mm-hmm.
But I felt like we needed a little bit more of a plan. So I started calling around to different municipalities actually the ones I called mostly were the townships on the south side of Columbus. I was like, hey, what are you guys doing? You obviously, when you look at even their communities, like everything looks the same, right?
Yeah.
Does it not? Everything there that you can tell that there's a design for everything that goes into those communities. Mm-hmm. And it's planned. So as I was talking to these people, they were like, oh, you have to have a comprehensive plan. You got to have the the comprehensive plan, so you can focus down the road as to what you need to, look at your goals, and then and look at.
It sounds a lot better than I want to build something.
No, yeah, absolutely. But the thing is, with that comprehensive plan, well, before I go any further with that, so in March of 23, I proposed that we did this.
Mm-hmm.
We just adopted it as a resolution at the end of 24. And I know what you're saying. It's slow, right? Well, the wheels of government do run slow.
Yeah.
But the good thing about it is, with that comprehensive plan, the company that we had do that, we used community surveys, because that was the other thing. One, what's the plan? And then two, who am I to say that we need to develop over here or we need to develop over there? This is what we need first. I'm not a city engineer.
Yeah.
But I knew enough to know that I didn't know.
Right. That's important.
Right. And we needed to have somebody come in with the knowledge and with the experience with something like that. So we put it out there for bid. We had multiple companies that put in, and I called each of those companies. I interviewed each of them where they came in and did presentations for council. I called their references, and then I Googled and found places that they didn't use as a reference. You know what I mean? Because you're gonna put the best stuff right there, in your references. So I did a deep dive into this because I didn't want this to be wrong.
Mm-hmm.
And this company, Reveille, they just outshined everybody else, and we went with them. Like I said, they ended up doing the community surveys. So hey, what do you as a resident and community member, what do you want? What do you think's important in Ontario? What do you want Ontario to look like in the future?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And it was great. We had really good responses. And then we actually had the superintendent of Ontario schools. He put a survey out for the students for us.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah. So the company that we used built the survey, got it to him, and he distributed it to the students, because ultimately those are the people who are trying to get
they're inheriting
right.
That. Yeah.
So it was a long process. We had steering committees. I was on that as well. Meeting after meeting after meeting, but you have to stay on track, right? So we finally adopted that resolution at the end of 24, and now we're starting to implement that. Well, and that zoning, like I was saying, that zoning update project, that's just one of the cornerstones of this whole deal, right?
Mm-hmm.
So that our Community Investment Corporation, all those different things that you're seeing in the paper right now, that's the foundation of that plan, and I'm really, really proud of it.
You should be, man.
Yeah, that sounds awesome.
You seem like a guy that always does your due diligence no matter what. And I'm not just saying that, but I've known you for a while, and you seem to be the guy who calls. I'll just ask him.
Yeah. I know how to bother people.
Yeah. Yeah.
But if you're going to serve the public in a political seat, right?
Mm-hmm.
So if you're going to do that, you've got to do your due diligence.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
You're doing a disservice to everybody if you're not. I'll say this. I definitely would put my record up against anybody as far as attendance. I know it's over 95% of, over the past 5 years. The other thing there is to look at, because we all serve on 3 committees,
Mm-hmm.
right? So I'm on finance, I'm on safety, and I chair economic development. But we have other committees. I go to almost every committee meeting, even if it's not in my committee, because I should be informed, right?
Sure.
The public is trusting in me to make sure that I'm informed, so I'm making the right decision for everybody in Ontario, right? For everybody, and that's what I intend to do. So,
do you think it's a necessity to serve on council before you take the mayor spot? Because it seems like you've learned all this stuff, and this seems like a natural progression. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I mean, unless somebody else has other experience, maybe like running something else, I don't know, but just walking in seems kind of like a big step to me.
Yeah. I'll tell you, I've learned a lot in the position of council,
Mm-hmm.
you learn to work with people. Right?
Yeah.
Leadership's about listening.
Right.
That's how I feel. And getting people together so that you can all solve one common goal.
Yeah.
Or one problem, right? To get to that goal. With council, you have different committees.
Yeah.
Right. So you have all these different committees, you have all these different personalities, and all these people are trying to represent the people in their wards and their community.
Mm-hmm.
So you have to be able to listen. Like sometimes, in my opinion, I think I'm right, and I'll argue it.
Right. Right.
Like, no, this is why I think I'm correct. And then somebody will say something, and I'll be like, I didn't look at it that way.
But you give them a chance to disagree.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And I'll say that about our council. Again, I can't say enough about the people I serve on council with, because we have Democrat, we have Republican, but you would think it's nonpartisan. I'll be honest with you. The number one goal at the city council in Ontario is making sure that we're doing right by the citizens of Ontario.
Yeah.
That's good.
Now, have we always gotten everything right? No. And I'll tell you right now, if I could go back on a couple things, learning what I learned now, in the beginning on council, I would have definitely changed my vote on a couple things, but I've also learned from that as well.
Yeah.
So,
But what advice would you give to yourself on day one? If you could go back and give yourself a 5-minute pep talk before you started first day of council.
well, that's a good question. I think if I was to go back and be able to give myself advice on my first day on council, it would be, like I said, it would be listen more, right? There's so many different opinions. There's so many different walks of life. Like everybody on council, everybody's got different experiences. They live in different neighborhoods.
Yeah.
They grew up differently. You've got to be able to work with those people.
Yeah.
And I have, and I think we have a great group.
So you've learned to become a little more pragmatic than you were before you walked in, or
Absolutely.
nothing's going to get done.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Again, when I first got on council, I was raring to go,
Mhm.
right? But I quickly learned that, meaningful progress takes time.
Yeah.
And that's something that you don't just have when you're first on. I don't think.
Yeah.
You
need some patience.
You're like, I want to get things done. I have these ideas. I want to express them to the rest of the people on council, to the
Mhm.
serve safety, to the mayor, to the citizens. And
are they like, we get it, we were there too. Just take a deep breath and let's figure some stuff out.
There's some growing pains when you first get on council, because you're like, okay, well, is this where I say I? Or, you know what I mean? Like,
the formalities and stuff.
the formalities, right?
Yeah.
And
It had to be a
fall-
weird time for everybody though, because you got in during COVID, right?
No, it was before COVID.
Oh, it was before COVID.
Like right before COVID.
Okay.
Right.
But still, that's got like.
And they couldn't see the panic on my face when we wore the mask. Like, am I supposed to say yay or I?
Yes.
But no, yeah. And the COVID made it. I mean, it was for the longest time, you were at council and nobody was in the council chambers other than you guys, because the public wasn't allowed in.
Yeah.
So
they couldn't see you shine.
Yeah. Yeah. No, but it is. It's something where you want people to be engaged.
Sure.
You want them to come to these meetings.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden, hey, sorry, we can't. The state locked you down. You guys have to wear masks and sit so far apart from each other and govern a city.
Yeah.
That's
rough.
Yeah. I mean, that was the issue, because one of the most important parts of on any city council is public comment.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Right. If somebody's coming in and they care enough to talk to you about what's bothering them, and what
taking time out of their day.
Yeah, when they can air out their grievances in the public.
Absolutely.
That it means
the town square.
And I'll tell you, there's times that residents come in and you could tell that they're upset with you over a decision that was made.
Yeah.
And all I can do is give the reasoning behind why I voted one way or the other. And I can promise you that either way I voted was behind that was a ton of research.
Mm-hmm.
And the basic concept of is this what's best for all of Ontario?
Right.
Yeah.
And if it is, that's the way I voted. So, And if it's not, then obviously not. But
Yeah.
no, it's
Well, I like that you're willing to admit that you've been wrong, and you're not just like, especially with running for mayor, you're not like, I'm just going to get in there and they're going to love what I have for them. You know what I mean?
I mean, I'll say it right now, and I'll look into the camera and say it. One of the biggest mistakes I think we've made since I've been on council was approving the mini storage units in a business district.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's one of those things that if I could go back in time, I wouldn't have voted that way.
Yeah.
And the residents that live in that area, they're the ones that have to deal with that.
Yeah.
Right. Mm-hmm. Yeah. They live in residential homes that's butts up to a business district. Okay. But, you know, when you look at all the issues that they've had when it's come to that,
Mm-hmm.
Man,
Wasn't worth it.
That bothers me. And, you know, we had a chance and I still don't know who it was or, you know, or which investment group or whoever it was, but you know, it came before council that somebody wanted to put another one in somewhere. And I said, you know, this is our chance. And I said it on the record. We made a mistake. This is our chance to correct it. Let's not let this happen. And we just, at this last meeting, we rescinded that. So, yeah.
Learning from your mistakes. Yeah.
Yeah. I'll say it. I didn't vote the way I, you know, looking back now, I thought I was making the right decision, but knowing now how things work, how that went, I wouldn't have voted the same way.
Yeah.
But I mean, that's just.
Well, it's not like you put a sewer plant in the yard.
Right. No, you're
Yeah.
right. You're right. But I mean, it's still an issue for them, you know, water runoff. Just everything.
What's the biggest complaint with the storage units?
Well, the water runoff, you know, things that were supposed to be done. It just wasn't done correctly or by the way the city engineer had drawn it so that these people wouldn't have the flow of water through their properties.
Okay.
You know, it did damage their property. So, yeah, it's just one of those things. And they look out their backyard or their back window and they see it.
Okay.
I don't know. I just, like I said, there was so many things that you were weighing at that time. But like I said, if I could go back, I definitely would have voted differently. But I'll admit it to anybody. You know, I've made some mistakes. That's the other thing I tell myself is every decision you're making, you know, it should be hard. You should be thinking on both sides of it. Okay. You should be arguing with yourself saying, is this what's best for the community itself? And quite honestly, storage units, what do? You know, the city makes, you know, brings in money into their budget from income tax.
Mm-hmm.
Who's working at these places? They're just taking up a ton of space.
Right.
And you're really not getting anything out of it.
Right.
I mean, that's not the only reason, but that's an argument, right?
Mm-hmm.
Sure.
So you want something to come in that reflects what your community is, that improves the overall life of the residents in that community.
Right.
And it produces tax revenue for your budget.
Yeah.
Right. So
to better improve the community.
Absolutely. Yeah.
What's the best piece of advice you've ever received? To wrap it up on some philosophical stuff.
The best piece of advice I've ever received.
Could be any time.
You know, I would have to go with, I was told to stay motivated, right? So when you look at, I don't know, when you were 20, is your motivations from when you were 20 the same as if I know you guys are.
Yep. I'm just kidding.
But, you know, are your motivations the same? Mine aren't. I mean, the basis of it, I guess you could say it is. You want to be successful.
Right.
Sure.
Right. You want to.
Your priorities have changed.
Yeah. Yeah. And, you know, when you look at that, you start from, you know, when I came out of high school, I was like, well, my motivation was, well, I got to find a career. You know, what am I going to do with my life?
Right.
Right. And I know I don't mean to go off on but when you said that, it's made me think of something. So I thought I would say it. A lot of the members of our community would know a lady by the name of Betty B. Miller. It's the sweetest lady, one of the sweetest ladies you ever met. I worked at a grocery store in town, and it was called Hawkins Market. They had one over here on 42, but I worked there, and all the baggers would fight to take this lady's groceries out, right? Because she was as sweet as could be.
Yeah.
And I got to talking to her one day, and I said, I took her groceries out, and I said, I saw the fire department is taking applications for volunteers. And she's like, oh, well, you should do that, because she always talked about public service. Her husband was a mayor for Ontario. And, we talked and talked. She's like, you should do it. I'm like, you know what? You're right. I should do that. Right. So I went, I put my application in. Chief Ron Henry was a chief there at the time. And I go in for an interview, and there was multiple people that were already there for the interview. They already had cards, they had some experience. I was just some guy that bagged your groceries and took them.
Betty told me to come here.
Yeah. Well, I go in there, and he's like, oh, I appreciate it. He was great. He honestly was. He was like, I love the fact that you want to help out your community. That's great. But, you really don't have any experience. Maybe, come back, or when we hire again, we'll keep your name on file. I'm like, okay, well, thank you. That could have been it, right? That could have been it. Who knows what I'd be doing right now? I don't know.
Yeah.
So I'm bagging Betty's groceries. Okay. Maybe about a week later. And she goes, hey, well, how'd that interview go? And I said, well, I think it went well. I mean, the chief told me he would keep my name on file. And she goes, oh, okay. Oh, that's all right. I'm like, yeah. She says, well, just keep at it. And I said, I will. Thanks, Betty. And it was like, I'm not kidding you. It was like a day later, I get a phone call, and it's from Chief Henry. And he's like, hey, we're going to hire you. I'm like, oh, that's great. He's like, how do you know Betty B. Miller? He grew up right next to her, and his parents lived next to Betty. So she went over and talked to Chief Henry's mother.
Oh, Betty.
But I know it's kind of off base of what we were talking about, but you talk like just moments that can totally change everything. That I'm so lucky to have the supporting cast that I have. Honestly, my parents have always been great. My family's always been great. My wife's always in my corner. And in that group, in that list, you have Betty B. Miller.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Well, stories like that give you such a sense of community, like how things should be. You know what I mean? Like, talk to the fire chief's parents from the lady that you helped bag her groceries. I mean, that's where.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely.
That's what people long for. Right. Community like that,
Yeah. And you look at that stuff, and you really, that's what motivates. That's what motivates me I want to make sure that our community stays as special as it has been for me. It's given me so much, and I just want to make sure, I want to pay it forward. Yeah. And I want it to be somewhere that my kids would be like, hey, you know what? I can raise a family here. I can be successful here and have a career here. Because, all right, selfish motivations, right? I want my kids close to me. Yeah. I want to be able to see my kids. I want to be able to see when they, long way down the road, when they have kids of their own. Mm-hmm. But you know what I mean? I want to be able to be close to them. Yeah. So one way of doing that is doing your part and trying to help out your community. Well,
that doesn't seem radical at all.
Right.
Makes sense.
We're going to link your website.
Okay.
But where can people find you? Where do you want people to go to look at your stuff?
Oh, okay. So you could go to joshbradleyformayor.com. That's my website that's out there right now. You could also go to Facebook, Josh Bradley for Mayor of Ontario. And you could follow a lot of the stuff that we've talked about today. I post about that as well. And actually on March 13th, from 5 to 7 p.m., I'm going to be at the Cove Pizza and Coffee Shop there right down in Old Ontario. Yeah. And everybody is welcome. Come on out. You guys come on out.
I'd like to.
Coffee and pizza on me. And we have some conversation, right?
Yeah.
It's really just about, I want to get my message out.
Just
sure.
open forum and
Yeah. And I want people to, it's not about, I want to get my message out. But the most important part of that is hearing what the community wants,
Yeah.
hearing their opinions and views, because that's who we're representing.
Yeah.
So,
it's a solid plan, man.
yes, sir.
Well, hey, thanks for coming to talk to us. I wish you the best of luck, honestly. And I'm rooting for you.
Hey,
For
I
sure.
appreciate it, guys. And thank you for having me. I got to tell you, I was really nervous about this. Just as a different
Yeah.
It's different.
medium. Yeah. So, but no, I honestly do appreciate you guys giving me the opportunity to speak on, some of the things that I think is important and that we need to look forward towards when it comes to the city of Ontario.
Yeah, for sure, man. Anytime.
Yep.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
Timothy, you got anything?
No, thanks for tuning in.
Yep. Thanks, guys. See you later.
Later.